Can I tell you a Kruger family secret?
Yeah.
Guess which Kruger member watches the Hallmark movies?
Oh, I totally know, but it's only because I know. It's the big burly Mike Kruger, the New Testament scholar who knows better.
Hi, friends. Welcome to The Deep Dish, a podcast from the Gospel Coalition where we love having deep conversations about deep truths. I'm Melissa Kruger, and I am here with my friend and co-host, Courtney Doctor. Hey, friend.
Melissa. Hey, friend. Well, we're excited because we have a special bonus episode for you today. We're actually going to release this episode a week before Thanksgiving. And the reason we're doing it is because we all know that the next 6 weeks can just demand a lot of us. We have so much we're looking forward to. We have things that our hearts are hoping for, longing for. We have these really high expectations. And so we want to talk about those things and how to manage these expectations and how to manage our hopes for the holidays. So, Melissa, I want you to tell the listeners why we called this episode Preparing for a Holiday That Will Disappoint, rather than calling it Preparing for a Holiday That Might Disappoint.
Well, we were just dealing with reality. There's just some reality that we always have higher expectations than will most likely come to pass when it comes to the holidays. And I think we have visuals in our mind of the family singing hymns around Christmas carols around the Christmas tree. I mean, and my family can't even sing, and there's no way it's going to sound good.
But in your mind, you're
this.
harmonizing. Everybody takes a vocal part as if I even know what those are. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't have a piano, but somehow in my image we do. And it's just this and it's also this visual of I just feel all the spiritual feels I'm supposed to feel. That's a lot of feelings, right? But it's not just supposed to be fun and friends are around and these warm emotions. I'm also deeply engaged in worship. Like those are like I want, we want all of these things.
We want all of it. And
Yeah.
reality is never going to match these expectations. And we're going to dive into all of that a little bit more. But just on the front end, we just want to be super clear that we love Thanksgiving and Christmas. We love the holidays. We are not haters of this. We're not trying to be like Debbie Downers that, it's going to be bad. No, it's going to be glorious. But there's always a gap between our expectations and reality. And before we even get going, just to prove that you are not a Christmas hater, I want to call out the fact that you have a new kids book coming out about Christmas. And I just got it this last weekend, got my hands on it, read through it. I'm actually hopping on an airplane in a couple hours, taking it to my grandchildren in Nebraska. It is called The Gift of All Gifts. And what it does is it actually holds these things in tension of the beauty of the season, the hopes that we have, but really anchors us in Christ. So I know that's a little bit of a commercial, but you're my friend and I have the prerogative to do that. It's beautiful and I'm excited about it. And we love Christmas, but
we do. We do. And my mom just always made Christmas so fun. So I don't know. I think sometimes as women, we feel really like we're the holder of the holiday. Whether we're making cookies for our neighbors or our coworkers at work or whatever. I think, we come into this just with a lot of expectations, even on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Of giving the right gift to our friends. All the things are just in our minds as we come into this. And I have to admit, can I say, this is a little bit of a tender topic for me this morning. I was crying about this morning. I forgot that this was the episode we were going to do. But yesterday, I found out that my oldest will not be at Christmas or Thanksgiving because of she's at missionary training and then she's leaving. And so it will be multiple. I was trying not to count how many Christmases and Thanksgiving I will not have all my kids home. And I was just so sad. And I was like, okay, how am I going to battle this? How am I going to battle my expectations of what I think I even have a right to
Uh-huh.
on Christmas. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, well, I'm okay. I knew when they got married, I'd give up one,
Yeah.
but
You're giving
all of
up
them,
both. Man,
yeah. I mean, so
it's yeah.
we're all coming into this from tender spaces, and it might be that you feel tender because you're like, I haven't had a good Christmas in 10 years, Melissa. Like a listener, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody might say it's lonely every year.
Or maybe it's the first Christmas or holiday without a parent. There's so
Yeah,
many reasons why. Or maybe you just moved.
yeah.
I mean, that's where we are. And yeah, it's so hard. My kids, my boys, my oldest two got married 6 weeks apart. And so that first Christmas, it was half of my children were not there that first Christmas after they were
Mhm.
married. It's change. And it feels like loss, doesn't it? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, as we head into this, first of all, y'all need to be praying for Melissa this Christmas and Thanksgiving because it's going to be hard. It's going to be sad. But there are so many things that, and you started kind of talking about this and alluding to it, the things that really feed maybe erroneous expectations. I think that our own hearts can create expectations. But I mean, I just want to be like, raise your hand if you watch too many Hallmark movies, because there is something about that where it creates this, idyllic, the snow is falling. Well, what if you don't live where it snows? And you cut down your own fresh Christmas tree and, everybody loves the gifts you gave and the turkey turns out right and the cookies are delicious and decorated. And it's like, it's the lie that you can have it all. And this is what all looks like. Um,
Can I tell you a Kruger family secret?
yeah.
Guess which Kruger member watches the Hallmark movies?
Oh, I totally know, but it's only because I know. It's the big burly Mike Kruger, the New Testament scholar who knows better.
He cracks me up. He's just like, "It's just always so happy."
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're killing me. I can't watch them," and he loves them. It
That
kills
is
me. It kills
amazing.
me.
I
But you're
love
right.
it.
That is the picture, that I think we all have kind of coming into the holidays. We have really high expectations. We come in, with and let's just say they're high, but they're normally good. It's a right thing to want, friends and family nearby and to see them and celebrate together. I mean, those are all really good things. So let me ask you this question. How have your expectations for the holidays changed over your adult life? You just mentioned that with, oh, the first year your kids weren't there and you
Mhm.
didn't mean it that way. 2 of them in 1 year weren't there, and so that was
Right?
kind of a, ooh, that's a hit. Um, but how have your expectations changed through the years?
Well, I think it's a battle to kind of navigate my own expectations because like you said, most of these longings are good and right. It is a deep longing in most of us to have a full table of people sitting around. It is a good and right expectation to want to feast and laugh and have it be rich in relationship and joy and all of the things. And so navigating our own hearts to say these are good and right expectations, and then know where we live in the story of redemption, that we live in the already and not yet. And so already we will experience some of the joys and the blessings, but we are not yet there. We are not yet at the feast to end all feasts. And it is actually the thing that our souls long for. And so I think even becoming a parent of adult children or being a woman who has adult children, I think you have to shift some of those expectations. And it's an intentional pursuit in me because I really do long for this idyllic thing. And my kids would testify to this. But learning to let go of the fact that I'm expecting it to be conflict free or or that I'm going to be the best version of myself for 10 straight days with 20 people in my house. I'm just not. And yet in my mind, that's what I go in wanting and expecting. And so, or this expectation that everybody, no friends are going to cancel, and not show up, even though I've already set the table, or whatever the expectations are. It's just learning to say, oh, those are expectations, and it's actually okay if those don't come to fruition, but to
Mm,
see the
mm.
joy that's actually there. What about you?
I'm gonna even go back earlier where my expectations had to start changing. I think when you move from, um, a an academic calendar and you get 2 weeks off at Christmas and, many days off at Thanksgiving to just the working world,
Right.
and all of a sudden you got 2 days off, and you're like, Hold on, I'm supposed to have this luxurious time even with my before I was married, just with my family to relax and reset, and that really changes when you move into the working world. I mean, I felt that when I went into teaching, so I still had a good break. So it was actually as I moved into different seasons, I was like, "Ooh, it's not quite the same." And I think there's this deep desire for even rest at the holidays, and that changed as I suddenly became in charge of the cooking
Right.
too. I was like, that's
Right.
nice that everybody's enjoying a puzzle while I'm chopping up the celery for the stuffing, or whatever." And I've really had to, in some ways, learn to guard my heart from, not heavy bitterness, but just like, well, yeah, it'd be nice to be sitting down with the family playing games, but someone has to cook the turkey, kind of that thing that can rise up. And so I think one of my expectations has had to change from, it's just gonna be restful to, oh, it might be really busy and that's okay. And enjoy the busyness, enjoy the mess in my kitchen, enjoy that there are shoes all over the place. And that's a beautiful sign of fullness, but it's changing what I'm thankful for. Whereas I think I'm longing, a little bit to rest and just be able to be still, and I have had to change that expectations,
Yeah,
a
for
a a
sure.
as I've grown. Now the other thing I think we want, okay, we've got Thanksgiving and then we've got Christmas. So
Mhm.
Thanksgiving, we are supposed to come into with truly grateful hearts
Yep.
and focusing on the Lord and who he is and what he's provided. And then we move right into Christmas and we're supposed to have this, I picture these moments. These are the moments I want. I want reading my Bible, staring at the lights on the tree, overwhelmed with gratitude that God of all the world chose to become man and dwell among us. And then I'm invaded by, "Did you remember to get that gift for so and so? Did you?" It feels like the busyness, seems to invade that. So how can we deal with our frustrations and our disappointments, even with ourselves during this season when and maybe how can we create space for those moments in the next 6 weeks? Do you have any advice or wisdom?
Well, I do think that there is this desire in us, and we feel the tension of our hearts aren't all of a sudden miraculously full of gratitude at Thanksgiving, or in an abundant way, or in a, higher, more intense way, or the same thing at Christmas. We want to just rejoice in the incarnation and experience God in a new way. But I would just say that we need to be cultivating hearts of gratitude all year long. We need to be praising God for the incarnation all year long. This idea that we can maybe even neglect those things and then want them to fall fresh on us in the holidays it's not helpful. It's actually not the life of a Christian. So this idea that we would be curating grateful, worshipful hearts all
Mm,
year, and not try to have this hyper experience of it. And at the same time, recognize that it is good for us to have rhythms where we say, oh, I'm really going to focus on this and I'm really going to prioritize this. And so I do think like the disappointment is not just in we didn't get the invitation to the party, or so and so canceled, or the kids can't show up, or we can't travel, or whatever it is. It's also in this, my own heart is not what I want it to be.
Mhm.
And so it's
Mhm.
actually a great opportunity to step into this moment where we actually can be sanctified in our disappointments. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but it's not so much just giving ourselves a break. It's not so much just saying, I need to be easier on myself. Sometimes I need to be a little bit harder and say, stop and think about what are you actually desiring? And then what are you actually trusting God to do and to provide and to curate and cultivate? And so that's this idea of like dealing with our own hearts, but so often we're thinking like our expectations hinge on other people, right?
Let me piggyback on that really quickly because I love what you were saying about cultivating it through the year. I never did this, so I'm going to go ahead and claim that. I maybe should start doing this. I had a good friend, they kept a jar on their table. And every time something throughout the year happened that they were really thankful for, they would put it in the jar. And then at Thanksgiving, what they would do is open the jar up and remember the whole year. And I love that idea because sometimes, we just want practical ideas, but then along the way, so you can start it in January. Okay. So just dream about January. If we're already just getting set for that, that's not that far away to just set a jar and start saying, we're going to put things we're grateful for, whatever it might be. Because I think then it allows you to come to the end of the year and it's the cultivating of the thankfulness rather than in the midst of the flurry and cooking and doing
That's
people
good.
coming in trying to create it. You've been creating it all year. And then, you can really celebrate it because you've been working on it all year. And I think it helps us to do that. It helps, if you've got kids, it helps them to learn to do that. If you've got roommates, it's a good thing to even do with your roommates and just say, hey, let's do this and do your Friendsgiving or whatever that
I
you're
love
doing. But
that.
I think it's a helpful way. I can't remember who told me that, but I was like, that's a great idea. And then I never followed up on it. And that sometimes happens too.
But it is. It's just a practical way of doing this thing that we're talking about but then I love that it actually comes to fruition or culmination at Thanksgiving. Like that's a beautiful kind of both and of a way that Thanksgiving can be a little bit more intense. Well, I want to look at two sides of the same coin. I'll start with the first one. And I think so often the expectations that we have for the holidays really hinge on other people. We want them to show up. We want them to be thankful. We want them to give a good present. We want them to, be the best version of themselves, whatever it is. And so, how does that impact in very negative ways our own ability to navigate the holidays when we're looking to other people to make it what we want it to be? So that's the first side of the question,
That's hard, Courtney, because if other people were just perfect, we'd have a perfect holiday,
right?
right? I mean, if they could just get it together and everybody be so thankful for every gift that we painstakingly picked, it would all be right. And if no one was selfish or taking the last cookie or whatever it might happen in our homes, and if I didn't revert back to my teenage self when I go home,
Yep.
I mean, like all the things, right? There's just a lot. I mean, I think um we love people, all of it. Yeah, I mean, we love our families, and so we hope that they bring their best selves to the table. But the reality is, sometimes I think we bring our worst selves to the table. We do revert back to old behaviors, and I think maybe even just setting our expectations and being understanding and tenderhearted toward one another, not as an excuse to have short tempers or be unkind, not in any way. I mean, but also just to be understanding that everyone coming into that gathering is dealing with something. Maybe their expectations weren't met. And here's what I've realized the more I've aged, I don't know if you feel this way. The more I have come to realize what bothers me is not what bothers someone else,
Yeah.
and what bothers someone else is not what bothers me.
Yeah.
And so I might be doing something very annoying or hurtful to someone else that I really don't mean to be. And the same is true of others. And so just giving a lot of um, patience and kindness to one another that, oh, that what I just said was not meant to be a poke at you. But I think there's just a lot of feelings. So I mean, I think that one of the best ways to prepare is to prepare to put our apologies on,
Ooh, that's
um,
good.
and and be quick to say, "Oh, okay, I think my comment really hurt you, and I did not. Can you tell me why?"
Mhm.
Um,
And I'm sorry.
and now let's be clear. Sometimes our comments are jabs, and we just need to own those and say sorry. I mean, we know the difference between the 2.
Right. Yes. And so, even back to that question you asked early on about how I've changed as, through the years, like how have my expectations changed? I think part of that is it's a huge part of accounting for the fact that I am responsible for some of the disappointment that other people feel. And just holding that like very loosely and saying, because I was probably way too old when this thought crossed my mind, but it's well, not just that thought. It's definitely way too old for that. But also the idea that, everybody in the room, whoever it is in the room at the moment, is experiencing that moment differently. And to give people the freedom to say, you're bringing your own story to the table here. And I know there's one person who is around our table a lot at the holidays. And this particular person, just even the slightest hint of conflict is very rattling to this person. Well, I am like all conflict and challenge and discuss and debate all day long. It doesn't even cross my mind that that's happening, and I love those kind of vibrant conversations. And a lot of people around my table love those kind of conversations, and I've had to really account for the fact that not everybody at the table feels that way. And so just even this idea of like holding it loosely, of just everything you said, everybody's experiencing their own thing. Everybody's experiencing this moment differently. And I'm the disappointment. I'm the struggle. I'm the problem that some people are wondering how they're going to overcome in the holidays. It's so humbling, right? But it's actually good to get there. It's really good to get there. It's freeing to get there.
So that is such a good point. And it's a humbling point. You're really right. Like I am someone else's cause for maybe prayer or disappointment. Like dealing how am I going to deal with her this holiday patiently and kindly? And it does create in us a sense of patience with others when we do that. So practically, okay, we're getting ready to go into these holidays practically, we can believe in our mind, okay, it's probably going to be disappointing in some way. But I do think it's even good to say it.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe even in your own heads say, what what am I prepared might be disappointing, for me. And to own it. Like, okay, it's gonna be disappointing to me if Aunt Betty, mysterious Aunt Betty, um, brings up politics again and everybody gets into a big fight about it, or whatever. Like, so almost maybe thinking through what are the disappointments we may see or we
Hmm.
may know in our family situation, and how do we prepare for them?
Oh, that's really good. And thinking through, right, like what is my response going to be that's actually helpful? Not just helpful for me, but helpful for everybody. And like, what are those moments that my anxiety always rises? And what can I do to navigate even that so that I'm just a non anxious presence? I've started actually ahead of time, just identifying two or three things that I know not just I want to do, but that I want to be in the settings. And like one of them for me, because I have grandchildren, I want to be intentionally present where I'm listening to them. Where I stop long enough to really like attune to them and listen to what they're saying, because it can get a little crazy or chaotic. And so like that's something that I just ahead of time intentionally think that's important to me. I want to do that no matter what else is going on, no matter what else I'm feeling. I really want to be present for that person. And I think that can be whether that's grandchildren or whether that's, like you said, roommates or friends that we have at our table, people from church. I want to be present and listening because that's hard for me. I just kind of, the whole thing can pass and I will just think, oh, that was so fun, but I don't know that I really feel like I was present in that moment. Does that make sense? I don't even know if that makes sense,
Yeah.
but I just can get
Yeah.
so busy and so caught up in the fact of, I love, like we had a whole big group from our church here. It was actually this summer, but, I love having women from my church over at Christmas. And I can just get so busy and having so much fun with the whole thing that I don't stop and really intentionally have these conversations with people. And so just those little things that mean something to us.
That's even a good here that this is making me think of I don't do this. I'm gonna do this. Like, what are the 3 conversations proactively I wanna make sure to have with people? Because I was thinking reaction, but that made me think, huh, maybe I need to take some time to pray before people come home and just think about their lives for a moment, slow down and say, "Oh, I wanna make sure to follow up with so and so on that diagnosis and ask how
Mm,
their hip's doing or whatever.
yeah.
Or I want to make sure with my dad to ask him this. And maybe I want to have a time where we ask them to tell the whole family, when did y'all meet? How did y'all, or some fun story. Like I'm not good about proactively thinking. Um, and that's making me think, oh, I should think not just how can I avoid discomfort or maybe conversations I don't wanna have, but how can we foster conversations we really wanna have? Because I think sometimes my disappointment is, we were all together and did we really connect?
Yes.
And,
Yes. That's what I'm
how
trying to say. Yes.
yeah, how do I do that well? And I think for me, one practical way is to do food prep ahead of time if I can, because I do in my mind get busied with all these people have to eat. Like, and so I'm like, I feel like that starts the practical things start taking over that ability to sit and listen that
Hmm.
you were talking about. But I also really wanna think through, what are the conversations I wanna have? Like, of activities, what are the 3 things I wanna make sure I make time for? Is it just sitting around doing a puzzle? Would I
Hmm.
like to really do that with them? I don't know, trying to think through what are not what's everything I wanna do, but what's the
Yeah.
top 2 things I wanna do? And
Yeah.
that would help
Well,
me.
and even just has you, I know when your youngest went to college this year, you gave her 3 questions to ask everybody that she,
Mm,
like you proactively thought of these 3 questions.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, yeah, what if I proactively think through just even the fact that even if I don't have specific questions because everybody's different, what if I just proactively think through the fact that instead of talking about myself so much, maybe starting every conversation with a question about somebody else? Like, what a novel idea that would be. So yeah, I love that.
So let me ask this question. How can the church, um, help in the season? Look, we know just from studies that are out there that for a lot of people, the holidays are really lonely. I mean, there's a deep, deep loneliness. I mean, this is a hard season for a lot of people. So, how can we as believers look beyond maybe our, families of origin, to the church family and um, if we're lonely, how can we look there to find family? And if our families maybe feel full and robust, how can we look to bring people in? I love, there's a verse that says he sets the lonely in families. I
Hmm.
think that's the picture of the church. So how can the church really be a help in the midst of holidays that disappoint?
Man, it's a heavy question because I know that probably every single person listening has some place in the holidays that's very lonely for them. And so as the church, how are we looking around and seeing our brothers and sisters? Seeing the one who this is her first Christmas without her mom or without her husband, or this is someone's Christmas where maybe she has children, but they are estranged, or they just live too far away, or they don't prioritize being together. I mean, there are so many ways that we are lonely. Maybe it's somebody who's in grad school and you just don't have time. You have this one day off, like you were talking about, Melissa, and you have this one day off and you want it to be something special, but you can't travel. And so what do you do? How do you, well,
Mm.
if the church would just look around and make sure that we see people and just invite them in, our entire table is going to be richer and more beautiful and more delightful. I think, and I am speaking about myself and to myself here, when I can get really protective of my table, whoever's there, especially these big holidays. Well, this is the time that I'm just going to have my closest friend group, or this is the time I'm just going to have my family, or this is the time, that I'm just going to, instead of being more generous with that space and saying, who does the Lord want to bring, and realizing and recognizing that it's going to be a more beautiful, richer time because of who is there. And I would say that if you are the one who is dreading the holidays this year because you are so worried and so sad that it is going to be a lonely holiday for you, speak up, reach out. Be proactive in this, because it is, as much as I want to say, church, look around, do this, we don't always do it. And so I also want to say, man, in say something and say, could I be there? I mean, it's a humbling thing to say, I'm going to be lonely if I'm not. But
Yeah.
but I will be better off for being there too. Like, we really need each other. And so for whoever we are, can we move towards this idea of the beauty of the fellowship that can be ours?
Yeah, I even think, one, ask the Lord to find a place for you to be, but I think if you ask your pastor or your elder even to say, "Hey, you may not know, I can't go home for a variety of reasons, or maybe there's no home to go to or whatever." Just tell them your story and say, "Will you pray for me? Because I'm really worried about being lonely." I think just that willingness to share. Sometimes people just don't know.
I just don't know.
Here's what I'm gonna say. My sister-in-law does this so well.
Mm.
I tell you, every Christmas Eve, we've done Christmas Eve together, I don't even know how many years. There are there are extra people at our table. She may have she may have asked them the week before, but she also may have just seen them at Christmas Eve service and said, "Hey, do you have anywhere to go to for dinner tonight?" Just brings them over. And I can tell you it is richer because of it. And let me also say, everyone acts a little bit they're better on the family is better behaved. When when guests
Right.
are around, it's not
Ah.
actually a bad thing because everybody's like, "Oh, we gotta
That's
we
amazing.
gotta really show up because there are other people here." But I'll just say, and I even my mom did this. Um, Everyone was always welcome, and I just really appreciate it looking back. I knew I could just invite extra people to stuff, and it was okay, and I think having that view of family where it's that, "Hey, y'all come in." Like, we've created this space. I'm making a turkey, bring it brought one more person, there's gonna be enough. We'll just make a little extra pack of gravy if we have to or whatever. Yeah, I mean, we'll do what we need. But I do think that openness, can be such a blessing, not just to the church family, but to your own family. And
Yeah.
I just I love having the eyes to see, and I wanna do better at that, but I've really learned it from both of them, just their willingness, because I can be a little bit too much, a little bit too concerned, like, "Do I have enough plates? Do I have enough?" What like, adding people can feel I can get too, logistically minded
Mm.
rather than relationally minded, and I just need to
Yes.
be like, "If we pull out some paper plates, it's totally okay."
Yes. The most ridiculous thing that I get a kind of weird about, so many of them, but one I'll share right now is, like, how many people, how many chairs I have, and are they all full, or what if I don't have enough? So we sit on the couch or a chair it's so funny. I'm like, no, I only have so many chairs. And I think the Lord's like, but even as you were talking, I was thinking about Mary and Martha in Luke 10. And, so often we kind of overplay that story a little bit. Like, oh, Martha was in, right? Martha's over doing all the cooking and all that. And the reality is we have to do the cooking. Like we kind of are like, oh, Martha, silly you. But the reality is, like you said, you're chopping celery while they're doing puzzles. And Jesus commends Mary for the better thing, for sitting and listening and being with him. And at Christmas, I think we really need both. We need to still prioritize kind of some alone time with Jesus so that we're just remembering to ask him to do these things in us and through us and for us. And then we have to chop the celery or clean the kitchen or whatever. The dishes have to be done, whatever it is. But I liked how you were talking about just even in that planning, how we can kind of push into almost more of like the Mary mindset, of yes, these things have to be done. And yes, I will need enough dishes, but they may not all match. And some of them may be paper and whatever it is we have to let go of, I guess is what I'm kind
Yeah.
of pushing towards. It's like, we just sometimes have to let go of things in order
Yeah.
to do this thing that you're holding out to us, which is a beautiful inclusion of neighbors and friends and coworkers and church members and, including them in the feast that the Lord has provided, and the beautiful thing that He's doing, hopefully in us, and through us. Okay, so we said we were going to talk about this, and I think it's really important that we do. So, what scripture passages? Is there anything that would be helpful as all of you all, and we're heading into these next 6 weeks? Are there some good places to go in scripture specifically? Stick with your same reading plan. I'm not saying just jump out of that. Stay in your same reading plan. But is there something that maybe you could memorize or that you could really meditate on over the next 6 weeks that would help just keep it before you, this thing that we're talking about?
That's a great question. I'm always big, or I've become big on memorizing Psalms
Mm,
because I just think they turn our hearts,
hmm
which is kind of a promo for the
Yeah.
conference. I did
Yes.
not mean that to be
They turn our
sneaking
eyes,
it in,
Melissa. They turn our
turning our
eyes.
eyes. So it can prepare you for coming to TGCW 26 this summer, which is June 11th through the
Through
13th.
13th. Look at you,
Yeah,
girl. Look
look
at
at
you.
me. I've been around you long enough to remember. That was not meant to be, but we would love you there. But, I've been memorizing Psalm 66. It just starts with this shout to joy. Yeah, shout with joy to God, all the earth. I mean, it raises your heart just to start saying it to yourself over and
Hmm
over and over again, and it reminds you of truth. But I do love Advent devotionals. There are some great ones
hmm
out there, and they do help me. Re- and I know we should be celebrating the incarnation, all year round and all of that. But I think it's great, at Easter to really think about the resurrection and what happened, and it's great at Christmas to think, "You became a baby." I loved it. All my babies were born in fall, and there was this I can just remember holding a little baby a and just thinking, "Jesus did this?" Like, God, you know,
So
came.
helpless, so needy. It's like,
Yeah.
what? You
Yes.
can't even wrap your mind around it.
Yes, yes, and so it's just the wonder of that should be wondrous, and I think it's good to have resources that will help our minds. I know TGC's put together a few devotionals. We had The Weary World Rejoices, and then I think it's Unto Us. We have 2 of those, and I just they're set out. You read a passage, there's a reflection, read, reflect, there was another R,
Respond,
rehearse.
maybe rehearse,
Respond. Yeah,
rehearse.
rehearse and or something like that. Yeah, there was something. And I think those are genuinely helpful, for our hearts to just help us engage. And I think taking the time to do that and praying through our attitudes, praying through our fears, praying through our worry, praying through our fretfulness. I mean, the Lord says, cast all your anxiety on me because I care for you. And he invites us not to be anxious, but to bring our anxieties to him. And he promises the peace that transcends understanding will guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And so I think there's that prep work is the most important prep work as we go in. I tend to think of it as I need to get my veggies chopped so that I can make the stuffing, or I need to, get 3 meals prepared. But the most important thing I can do is be, spending time in the word and in prayer, and really taking the time to sit still before him and let my soul be transformed, because it's in those moments most often that I realize I need to apologize for what I said. I need to go to that person and say, "Hey, I didn't respond well to that. Will you please forgive me?" And that is where relationships are gonna actually be strengthened in our, whoever's in our home.
Mhm.
But I think we need to, if I could say prioritize anything as we prepare, that would be mine. What about you? Do you have any passages of scripture that you love to meditate on as you go in?
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that. But before I share it, can I just say I'm astounded at how many times you've mentioned chopping veggies. I feel like you have a lot of veggies in your stuffing. And that is
I
not, I put
do.
sausage and bacon and pecans. I'm like, I just don't. But anyway, you have a lot of veggies in your, and
I
you've talked
know.
about chopping veggies. And that's just too many veggies. It's
My mom's
Thanksgiving and
stuffing is
Christmas.
so
Put a
good.
note in the comments if you're with me.
No, it
Let's
has 2
boycott the
sticks of
veggies.
butter. No, 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 but these veggies have 2 sticks of butter.
Okay. I can do that.
It
Okay.
and it's really just like onions and celeries. I'm making it a big deal because the
That's a
chopping
lot of
takes a long
chopping. It's a
time.
lot of chopping. It's a
Yeah,
lot of chopping. I don't know if anybody else noticed how much chopping Melissa was doing, but I'm probably stirring because I'm making cookies. Okay, but I would say that what I really do keep before me through the holidays is Galatians 5:22. And I go through it slowly. So it's the fruit of the spirit, but it's like, okay, love. Am I being loving? Joy. Is there joy? Peace. Patience. That's a hard one. Patience. Kindness. That word alone is so powerful to me, just to ask myself, am I being kind?
mhm.
Faithfulness. I think I skipped one, right? Faithfulness,
I
gentleness.
always forget, like,
That's a big one for
goodness.
me.
Goodness.
Yes.
Goodness.
Good.
That's the one
Just
I
be
forget every
good.
time.
Just be good to people.
Yeah.
Do good to people. Um, and self-control. Am I
I was
reining
gonna
it
say, you
in?
forgot
I know.
self-control. Is
No,
that
I
because
was
we were talking about
getting
stuffing and
there.
cookies? Stuffing and cookies.
And then I say self-control in moderation during the holidays.
'Cause the cookies
Oh.
need to be apart.
The cookies need to talking about expectations. So last year, my youngest daughter had set out to make Christmas cookies with her 4 nephews and her 1 niece, who are still pretty little. And so she made, I don't know, like tripled or quadrupled the recipe. And I mean, before those things were even like going in the oven. So the decoration hasn't even happened yet. She's like, "Can anybody come help me with this?" Because the expectation was it was just going to be idyllic and the 5 little kids were going to just be participatory and it was going to be this wonderful thing. And she was exhausted at the end of it. I mean, exhausted. She's like, "I am never doing that again." I'm like, "I know, it's a lot." But her expectations and reality were very, very, very different.
So, Courtney, I think Galatians 5:22 would be great for anyone, if you wanna print out something to put on your fridge or to put wherever in your house, maybe by your sink, wherever you're gonna be, that might just be a good reminder. We also have something I'm really excited about. Our team helped us with this. It's just a printable, PDF that I think it's so well done. It asks some questions. It says feast with on the word, draw near in prayer, express gratitude, offer worship, serve others. It actually gives some helpful tips to set your mind on things above. Yeah, and I'm always struck by how many scriptures talk about our mind, right?
Mhm.
Consider, think upon these things, prepare your mind for action. And I think that this is just such a great printable that you can print out. Maybe do it in the next week to just prepare your minds as you head into a holiday that will, in some ways, um, disappoint at some point, and hopefully, that will allow, even when it disappoints. This is what I even think sometimes about my own struggles with sin and things like that. It does turn our eyes back to Jesus and
Mhm.
say, "Thank you that, yeah, this feast will disappoint, but one day we're gonna be in the new heavens and the new earth, and we are gonna feast, and there will be no sighing, no sadness, no sorrow." And our hearts are rightly longing for that. And so that's what we're looking forward to. Okay, well, so we always end on a fun question or something. And I love this one because the gift of all gifts is about gift giving and why we give gifts at Christmas. So let me ask you this. What's your favorite memory of giving someone else a gift on Christmas? What did you love giving?
I just love giving gifts. Like, I can
Too.
hardly wait. And I love the ones that were not on their list, but I know they're going to kind of be like a hit. So, but last Christmas, the, my four little grandsons are completely into Spider-Man, all of them. So I saw on Instagram these blankets that you can buy that puts their face on a different, like, Spidey pose, you know? So I did different ones for each of them where they're like flying through the air, but it's their face and Spider-Man's body. I mean, I could hardly wait for them to open them. But I'm also the one that I'm one daughter and I are the first ones up. 5:30 on Christmas morning. We are like, when is everybody else going to get up? I mean, I love it so much. I love getting gifts as much as I love giving gifts. So I'm still like, the whole thing is still very, very fun for me. What about you?
Okay, I'm actually gonna share, not I love gift giving, and I really love giving good gifts, but the one I remember that was like the winner gift one year was one that Emma, my daughter, got for John, and it was one of those times I was like, "That was just the best gift." So my son, he loves building rockets. He's an aerospace major, this all started when he watched Apollo 13 and October Sky, both movies I recommend. They're so fun to watch, together over the holidays if you're looking for something to watch. They're both really fun. And she wrote Jem Lovell, I think. Was he on Apollo 13? I think so. I may have my facts wrong. She wrote his wife and said, "Could you get him to sign this letter for my brother?" And he has this letter that he wrote talking about, his love of space and all of this stuff, and it's signed by him, and it was just like the winner gift, and I was like, "That was a great idea."
That's so
So,
cool. That's
it was
so
just
cool.
and to see your kids, like, she was so excited to give it
Mhm.
to him.
Yeah.
She couldn't wait to give him. So, anyway, it was just really fun. Okay, friends, we hope that you have enjoyed this bonus episode of The Deep Dish from the Gospel Coalition. One thing, if you want to give us a gift this Christmas, one of the things you can do is actually go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. It helps other people find this podcast when you do that. And so it just, people who maybe have never listened to even a Christian podcast, it might draw them in. So that is a big help for us if you would go and do that. But we just hope that whatever you're going into this holidays, that Jesus will be the focus, that he will be what makes your heart thankful. And we wish you all very happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.